Sure. So, again, hello everybody. It's been a while since my last presentation here at MicrolearningConf, and now I understand how much I've missed it actually, because this is amazing atmosphere, and I really can't wait to share what I've prepared for you today. So, we'll be talking about not just creating something behavioral changing related, but actually about how you can transform into somebody who drives business impact. And it all actually started 4 years ago when we launched 7 Tabs. At that time, our mission was simple: to help learning development teams create microlearning faster. And it actually worked beautifully. You can see these nice screenshots. These are real product reviews. And as you can guess from the previous speakers, this approach has resonated with so many, many teams, and they could finally respond to training needs faster and deliver training that actually doesn't feel like training. But as I watched the market evolve, something started bothering me. And let me know if I'm not alone here. My LinkedIn feed now is flooded with AI tools claiming they can create content in minutes, that you can create content in minutes. And it seems like everybody started just talking about faster and faster and faster content creation, more content, prettier content. Well, yet when I talk to learning development leaders, I talk to 7 Tabs users daily, especially those facing tough times, budget cuts, layoffs. Let's be real, they're not asking for more content. They actually never do. They are asking a much harder question. How do you prove the worth of this training to business, to our business? How do we prove our own worth as a department to our business? I'm coming from the learning development consulting space, and I know firsthand that beautiful content isn't enough. You need to show real impact because otherwise you won't get hired again. And I don't know if you agree, but it seems that something like that's happening to all learning development departments. They are facing the very similar pressure. That's why we really worked hard and created something different. Officially, it's called the Microlearning Copilot. And I bet you are thinking now something like, oh, this must be just another chat GPT thing. But no, it's not. While we really utilize 3 different large language models, we have developed our own proprietary model that works on top. And in a nutshell, Microlearning Copilot is a framework for creating real behavior change. It's guiding you through the kind of diagnostic conversation a learning development consultant would have. But frankly, my team calls it the K pilot. They say it thinks like me, it creates content like me. And to some extent, they're right, because I personally put years of my experience into this tool and literally thousands of conversations my team and I had with 7 Tabs users, with just learning development folks over the past 4 years. I really understand how important this fuel today to transform from that order taker role into an impact driver. Correct me if I'm wrong. And believe me, I've been thinking a lot about what are the main challenges that stop you from making this transformation. I think it comes down to 2 critical things people in learning development typically struggle with. The first one is about asking the right diagnostic questions. And the second one is speaking the language of business impact. This is actually why we structured the Copilot the way we did. And let's talk about speaking the tool. Let's walk through how it actually interacts with the user, with you. So the very first thing the Copilot will ask you is, what skill will people develop? Notice that's not a topic you want to cover. And when a stakeholder comes to you asking for some training, Please don't accept broad topics and try to dig deeper as much as you can with a question like, what things do you want people to be able to do after that training? And, when you just frame it this way, you are focusing on observable behaviors rather than abstract concepts. And I think you'll be amazed how quickly something that sounds like presentation skills or communication skills can be transformed into something like, I want my people to be able to deliver complex technical information in a way that even a non technical stakeholder can understand and act on. Then the copilot wants to understand who exactly needs this skill and where they are in their journey. Please notice this example here. Recently promoted managers in a manufacturing company. It is effective. Why? Because it's specific. And you may think of some alternative like managers. It won't be effective because this would be too vague. So when talking to a stakeholder, you can try these questions. If we could only train one group of people right now, just one, which would make the biggest impact? And of course, what prior training or experience are we building upon, realistically? Because often these questions reveal surprising insights. And, back in my consulting days, I'd often find that rolling out training to a whole department wasn't the right solution. And sometimes I'd come across a few high performers who, if trained first, could actually turn into internal champions and help others to pick up those skills naturally. Sounds like magic, right? Or think of some specific groups like you managers moving up from technical roles. Such people really need targeted support first. So it's all about being strategic with your learning interventions. Then the copilot asks for specific workplace situations and behavioral patterns. And this is unfortunately something where learning designers get stuck. But here's the trick: you actually don't need to know all this yourself. You just need to ask the right questions. Let me know how many of you have ever heard a stakeholder say something like, um, our managers need better leadership skills. If you've been there, just drop me in the comments. And I can imagine that a person who gets such a request in that moment can be thinking something like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Because honestly, leadership skills could mean 100 different things. It's about as specific as saying, our food needs more flavor. All right, but are we talking about a bland soup, or is it a dessert dry chicken, or whatever? That's why I suggest trying these questions. Please walk me through a recent situation where leadership fell short of expectations. And if you could replay that situation, what would good leadership look like? And just like that, something that can be initially called better leadership skills can be transformed into specific and real challenge like, oh, I think our managers are solving problems for their team instead of coaching them to find solutions. Or another example, our managers avoid addressing missed deadlines until they become crisis. And as you can guess, for those challenges, various training materials are needed, right? Now, for outcomes. And this is where we really start speaking the language of business impact. Instead of vague goals like, again, improve your leadership skills or improve communication skills, the copilot pushes you to be specific about behavioral change. So you can try these questions with your stakeholders. What would success look like in day to day operations? Some real ones. And how could you confirm whether this particular training worked? And please, please, please don't give up on asking until you uncover some core, some tangible metrics. I know this is hard. And that metric could sound like, customer issues resolved in one call instead of three. And this isn't just semantics, because again, when you frame it this way, you are already talking about how to prove impact. You are thinking about it. You are speaking the language your stakeholders care about. Let alone these metrics are realistic to measure. And believe me, they mean far more than completion rates. And finally, organizational context. I know this might seem like background information, but again, believe me, it's crucial for creating impact. The copilot needs to understand what's driving this need now. Are there any organizational changes that might impact implementation? And probably there are some initiatives or pressures that people are dealing with right now. I actually have a funny story about it. I got so immersed in these diagnostic questions when working on the copilot. You know, that state when you're really passionate about something and it starts seeping into every part of your life. So, my husband once caught me with this. One day at breakfast, watching our baby reject yet another banana, he turns to me with this completely serious face and goes, honey, should we explore the root cause of this banana rejection? Is it a texture issue, or are we looking at a broader food change management situation? And you know what? He might have been joking. He obviously did. But he had a point, because that's exactly what we are talking about here. Context matters. What worked yesterday might not work today. What works for one team might not work for another. And you can even think this way: what looks like a simple training need actually can have much deeper roots we need to understand. Recall that iceberg on the first slides I shared. And by the way, speaking of some peculiarities of the Copilot, it does not have direct access to the internet, so it can't know about things that happened, let's say, yesterday. For example, your new product launch. And like any other AI, it won't know your specific internal information, like some acronyms that only make sense in your team meetings, or some product launch you are only thinking about launching. But if you are thinking that's a bit limiting, I've got some exciting news. In just a few weeks, we are rolling out a feature where you can actually upload your own files and have the Copilot create training from them. We'll let you know as soon as it's ready. And as with everything else, the Copilot was built with enterprise grade security in mind. No AI training on your data, and our system has the world's most advanced security certification. It's called SOC 2 Type 2, just for the record. And on the final step of the Copilot, you choose the number of courses you want to create. I actually don't have any specific tips to share here. It really depends on your training needs, and the decision is entirely up to you. The good news is that you can experiment as much as you like, as you need, and settle on the most relevant length for your microlearning journey. And before we wrap up, I want to talk specifically about the instructional design intelligence built into the Copilot. That's something I'm really proud of, because this is a tool that understands and applies the principles you all value as learning professionals here. So let me demonstrate it with a leadership course the Copilot has actually created. It's actually a two-course learning path. Elena, could you please share the links in the comments so that the audience can explore them later? For now, I just want all of you to take a look how the first course unfolds. It starts with activation. Then it makes the content immediately relevant. It builds psychological safety through kind of a no judgment pull, because let's admit, real learning requires some vulnerability. Then from simple reflections, it moves to more complex scenarios. It chooses retrieval opportunities throughout, very naturally. And what looks like a simple sequence of cards, yes, we do call them cards, is actually a carefully orchestrated learning journey. Every element you see on this slide serves a purpose. The poll promotes reflection and provides social proof. The audio story brings the concept to life. Practice scenarios used here mirror real challenges, etc. So the Copilot takes proven instructional design principles and helps you apply them consistently every time you use the tool. And yes, I know what some of you might be thinking, like, can something as small as 7 taps mini courses really create behavior change? Am I right? The answer is yes, when it's done thoughtfully and strategically, just as river shapes landscapes through countless small interactions. But that's a probably topic for my next presentation here. For now, I've written a detailed guide about how to transform behavior through microlearning. It's published in our Microlearning Pro community. You can see the website on the slide. It's completely free. Feel free to join in and learn with us. And speaking of taking action, I really want you to experiment with the Copilot. Please try the questions we discussed in your next stakeholder meeting. Use the Copilot to structure your thinking. And remember, if you get stuck, we are all here to help. I'm personally here to help. Here's my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect and reach out anytime. Because at 7 Taps, we are not just about creating more training, more content. I do believe that we are all about elevating the entire conversation around learning and development. So, having said that, thank you all for being such an amazing audience. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on the Copilot. That would be amazing.